In this lesson, we'll take a look at the eye and the ear model. So this is a posterior view of the eye. The reason I know that, we can see the optic nerve coming in the back of the eyeball. But I want to start out by saying that our eyeball is made up of three distinct layers. The outermost layer is the white of the eye. This is known as the sclera. You can see it's pretty thick, it's very tough, the sclera. The middle layer in brown is the choroid. You can see it's very vascular. It has a lot of blood vessels. It's also brown because it has melanocytes, which produce melanin. So it's always going to look brown. Okay, so sclera on the outside. The middle layer is the choroid, and then the white tissue here, also with blood vessels, this is going to be the retina. The retina contains like photoreceptors plus the dendrites, the nerve endings of the optic nerve, which is cranial nerve number 2. Okay, so three layers: one, sclera, outer; two, choroid, middle; three, retina, inner. Now, filling up the chamber of the eye in the back is water that's actually jelly-like. If you were to take it and pour it onto your palm, you could actually shift it from one palm to the other, back and forth, just like a little ball of jelly. This is known as the vitreous humor. This helps to hold the retina up against the sclera. It actually holds it up so that it doesn't slide down. Okay, so these are the things we can see from this view. Again, sclera, choroid, retina. The ball of jelly inside the eye, filling up the complete chamber, is the vitreous humor. And then entering the back of the eye is the optic nerve, that is cranial nerve number 2. This view is a little bit more anterior and superior, right? This here would be the front of the eye, and then obviously this would be the top. Again, we could see the white of the eye. I didn't label it on this picture here, but that would be all of the sclera. Now, extending anteriorly from the sclera, this little bubble, this clear bubble right here, is called the cornea. It needs to be transparent so that light can go through it and then enter the back of the eye, and the light can hit the retina. Right, so that's going to be called the cornea. Again, that extends anteriorly from the sclera. Now, there's two other structures that project anteriorly from the choroid, the middle layer. The colored part of our eye, I have it labeled over here, right? It's inside the cornea on this picture. What makes your eyes different colors, blue, green, black, brown, right? That type of thing. That is known as the iris. Now, right behind the iris, we have a lens. That lens needs to adjust based on what you're looking at. If you're looking at something up close and reading, it has to be a certain thickness compared to if you're looking at something far away. Well, what adjusts the lens is this. You'll see these little fibers here. These are known as the suspensory ligaments, and they attach to a muscle called the ciliary body. Right, so these suspensory ligaments and the ciliary body, these are also extensions of the choroid. The iris is an extension of the choroid. So what happens is the ciliary body will contract, pull on the suspensory ligaments, and then pull on the lens, and it will thin it out. And then when this relaxes, takes less tension on the suspensory ligaments, this will thicken, right? So all day long, your lens is adjusting based on how close or how far away you're looking at something, okay? So the iris, suspensory ligaments, and the ciliary bodies are all anterior extensions of the choroid. Again, we see the vitreous humor here, and one more time on the retina. Okay, the last slide for the eyeball, again, you can see the optic nerve and the choroid one more time and the retina. But I just want to point out this green arrow here is pointing to an area in the retina that has a very high concentration of the photoreceptors. And when light hits that spot, that is known as the macular lutea, by the way. When light hits that spot, we're able to have the sharpest, keenest vision. So many times you don't even realize you do it. You're kind of tilting your head a certain way so that light actually hits that spot so that you can see something more sharp or more like keenest focus. and that is known as the macula lutea. Okay, and those are the main structures of the eye. Let's take a look at the ear model next. So we're going to divide the ear into three regions. The first region I'm going to do with you, I've circled in blue, is known as the external ear. A couple different parts. So this whole outer part of the ear right here is called the auricle. Now the auricle has two parts. This rim right here, all of that is called the helix. And then what we would normally call the ear lobe, right, where somebody puts an earring or the ear lobe, it's actually called the lobule. Where a Q-tip would go in here, this whole canal is called the auditory canal. Right? This is actually lined with ceruminous glands that produce earwax to kind of catch any debris that may be going into the ear. And then the external ear ends right here. This membrane right here is the eardrum. This is known as the tympanic membrane. So those are the structures of the external ear. The next part of the ear, from the tympanic membrane backwards to here, is what I call the middle ear. Okay, so one of the things we have coming from the middle ear is a tube that actually goes down to the throat. Now this has a couple different names. We can call it the auditory tube, which is a nice easy name to remember, because it's starting from the ear, the middle ear. We used to also call it the eustachian tube. And one of the newer terms that I'm hearing now is the pharyngotympanic, which is actually a good name also because it's telling you where it's going. It's coming from the pharynx, which is our throat, going into this middle ear where the tympanic membrane is. So your choice, they're all good names, so, auditory, eustachian, or pharyngotympanic. The job of this tube is to equalize the pressure that's in your throat, like atmospheric pressure, with the pressure in your ear. So that's sometimes you'll hear your ears pop, and that's a way of equalizing the pressure. Right, the bad news about this is if you do have a strep throat or a sore throat or viral infection in your throat, that virus can make its way this way, and now you have an ear infection. The other structures inside the ear are these three bones right here. These are known as the auditory ossicles. So what we're seeing here is the back of the tympanic membrane. I'm just going to go back a picture. Here's the front of the tympanic membrane, right, facing the external ear. So my picture now on the next slide is behind. And there are three bones that I'd like you to know. The malleus, that's the one here that's attached to the tympanic membrane. The middle one here is the incus. And then that is attached to this bone here called the stapes. Okay, malleus, incus, stapes. So as your eardrum vibrates, this bone moves, causing that bone to move, causing that bone to move, and it actually taps on a structure we're going to look at next called the cochlea, which sends a signal to the eighth cranial nerve, which is going to go to your brain to interpret what you're hearing. Okay, so the structures of the middle ear, again, the auditory tube, the malleus, the incus, and the stapes, and those make up our middle ear. The last part of the ear we'll take a look at is called the inner ear. So this part over here on the right has to do with balance. This part right here in the middle is called the vestibule. Right, so there's certain receptors here that determine or send signals to your brain as far as when you're moving in a linear way, as far as like just kind of rolling forward or backward or moving up and down like in an elevator. That's sending signals to your brain to just kind of interpret how you're moving. These big loops over here are called the semicircular canals, and they pick up more angular movements, right? So as you're moving your head back and forth or side to side. Okay, so this whole middle part, the vestibule, and then one, two, three, those big loops are called the semicircular canals. The last part of the inner ear right here is called the cochlea. It kind of looks like a snail. And this nerve right here is the eighth cranial nerve called the vestibulo-cochlear nerve. Vestibulo-cochlear nerve, right? Part of the nerve comes from the vestibule and part of the nerve comes from the cochlea. So this nerve has to do with hearing and balance. Okay, and those are our two models of the ear and the eye.